Hello. Good morning. Um, it's time for Sunday support, and Dewey's here today. Yeah, we wrote on our Instagram, this we're doing this Sunday support not because it's back to normal, but because in order to be in this movement for racial justice and for Black lives and for changing the toxic policing system in the United States, we need to take care of our mental health and make sure that we are have healthy minds and bodies. So we're here to have a little recovery support today. Um, How's everyone doing? I'm laying in bed with Dewey. That's where I'm at. What's going on with everyone? How is everyone taking care of themselves today? Hello, Germany. Aw, shucks. Still need to brush my teeth. Um, yes, a deep, calming breath. Let's do it. That was nice. That was a great suggestion. I don't do enough breathing. I don't know about you all, but I could stand to breathe more and more deeply and more often. Um, you woke up earlier today. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's very important um, and very challenging, and yeah. Oh shit, shucks, Maya. And it's important that we are checking in with ourselves and making sure that we're taking care of our mental health. I saw this really amazing post, and I'm going to forget who posted it. I'm sorry, Laura. But it talks about how, we have to have stamina and be in this change for the long term and set up, systems in our own lives to make sure that we're, you know, honoring Black lives, honoring trans lives, because it is Pride Month. Um, we have to set up those systems so that we're not just sort of binging on social justice right now, that we're actually committing to a lifelong process of showing up for it and showing up for our Black brothers and sisters and our trans brothers and sisters and our Native brothers and sisters. We're specifically talking about Black lives right now, but to have those systems in place and to make sure we're making our libraries reflect. Oh, that's good, Lara. Reflect the voices that we need to be listening to have our wallets serving businesses with good practices, businesses owned by Black folks, businesses owned by queer folks, and not just. And I need to work on this and not just defaulting to ordering from Amazon because it's easy, things like that. So, um, you know, that's what I've been thinking about. Things for the long term. Um, I'm missing a million ways, making donations recurring if you can, and just practicing anti-racist conversation. What should I do if someone close to me is pro-Trump and I am an immigrant in the U.S.? That's a big question. I would be curious what other folks have to input on that. And I would, I've been talking with a lot of my friends this week about how to have these tough conversations, and I think, and I've heard that starting from shared values can be really helpful. And if this person is close to you, you're probably a shared value, right? You guys can at least agree on the fact that your life means something and your future means something. So starting there and using that common ground as a place to build conversation from, I think can be useful. I think education is a really great tool as well. And, we are not taught the history of this country, the real history of this country. We're taught a very whitewashed, pro colonization history. And, you could do things like watch a documentary together, or listen to a podcast, the same podcast, and then discuss it, or read a book and do some sort of book club together. But I think it would really depend on the nature of your relationship with this person. And I do think I was reading something about, and I can't remember what it's called, but there's a certain type of person that can kind of move between groups and speak to sort of both sides of the aisle. And that's a really important role to be playing right now. If you're someone that can take these messages of Black lives and immigrant lives, and no person is illegal, and find a way to speak that message to someone who might not see it that way, that's a really important role. That's something I'm trying to work on, that I need to get better on. And I need to get better at a lot of things in this, but that's really tough. And I think also knowing when to tap out and to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe is really important. I'm so sick of my ED, but I can't let it go. Yeah, I think that's really common. There's safety in the known, even if the known is painful, right? And we keep buying into these false promises that our eating disorders give us, that doing X, Y, and Z will make us feel safe. Doing X, Y, and Z will make us feel powerful. Doing X, Y, and Z will make us feel in control. When really, the eating disorder has proven time and time again that that's just not true. It won't give us anything. In fact, it will continue to suck life from us, suck energy from us, suck joy from us, suck experience from us. And, but that idea of a quick fix to all of our problems is really seductive. And that voice for me, has been one of the last, hangers on of my eating disorder. And I think just practicing combating those thoughts. Maybe it's writing down, if you have a thought that if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to feel better. Write down some real ways that actually do make you feel better. Is it talking to your mom on the phone? Is it playing cards with your friend? Is it a movie that you love? Like writing down the life experiences that actually make you feel that thing that you think your eating disorder is going to give you. And you can also do things like I am having the thought that my eating disorder will give me this. And I find that using terminology, and I can't remember where I learned it, but I'm having the thought that I ate too much. Takes the power away from just thinking, I ate too much. You're saying, I'm having the thought that I ate too much. I'm having that thought. It's just a thought that I'm having. It's not, Dewey. Okay, he's over this. It's not the reality. It's just a thought. It's just a thought, and a thought will pass. I'm having the thought that my eating disorder will give me XYZ, right? Let's see. Jessica says, why am I so... Jessica, that sounds absolutely so challenging. To be stuck in the middle of a conversation like this, a really important, really challenging conversation, and to feel like you're not, like you don't belong, is so painful. And I completely, like, tears for that feel completely, yes. I think yes. And I'm so sorry that you're having that experience. And Oh, I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad you have a doctor's appointment, thankfully. Um, okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that you're not doing well. And I think, I imagine, and I've heard from folks of color right now that a lot of these conversations can be incredibly traumatic and incredibly triggering, not just because of things that have happened in recent history, but can be a ripple effect to lifelong microaggressions and lifelong pain, and for you probably not feeling like you fit in anywhere, and that my heart is with you, and that is so incredibly challenging, and not something that I have had to deal with personally. And I'm happy that you have this doctor's appointment tomorrow, and I'm hopeful and I'm hoping for you that the doctor that you see can be present with you and can hear you and can give you the support that you need to take care of both your emotional and physical health. I, you know, I wonder if there is, I know that Project Heal, and I'll try and find this link, but Project Heal is launching a virtual support group for just individuals of color right now, to give a space where, because there are a lot of things that we white folks can't understand, and sometimes us being a part of the conversation, I think, can be more damaging than helpful from time to time. I also think that there are conversations that us white people need to be having amongst ourselves right now, that it's important for us to have in isolation so that we don't re-traumatize our friends of color. And so I wonder if maybe you might be able to pop into that support group. If you go to the projectheal.org, and I think on their Communities of Healing page, maybe that might be a place where you can get some support for this particular thing that you're struggling with. That's incredibly valid and real, and you deserve support and you deserve community with. Um, oh my goodness. Oh, good. I'm glad you know what Project Hero. Jessica, wow, you have so much on your hands. Um, well, I'm sending you a lot of love and support, and I know it can feel like you're just doing everything you can to keep your head above water. But I imagine you're setting such a gorgeous example for your kids right now with all of this, and I'm sending a lot of love, and I hope that you can find that support because you definitely deserve it, especially during these times. Let's see here. My finger keeps going in front of the lens. Hang on, let me move. Let me switch hands here. Um, da, 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 da. Do I have any thoughts on intuitive eating? Yes. Yeah, intuitive eating. I've never actually read the book. I keep meaning to, but I haven't gotten around to it. My move toward intuitive eating after being discharged and following a meal plan for a while, I sort of like, I sort of just like eased into it. Sometimes I would try it for a day, like one day a week, I would do intuitive eating, and then the rest I would follow my meal plan. And then maybe try 2 days, and then maybe say, well, I'm going to do intuitive breakfasts. And allowing a little bit of like controlled flexibility first might be helpful for you. It was helpful for me. Um, I think it's really exciting that your therapist wants you to try it. I think it says a lot about the hard work you've done. And, that's, I think really where we want to go in recovery, right, is a place where we don't need to micromanage what's going into our bodies, where we can have that flexibility and take away the value of how much or what we're putting into our bodies, where eating can be, it can be a lot of things. It can sometimes be a joyful celebration, and it can sometimes be something you just have to grab out of your fridge and shove in your face in your car because you're running late. And sometimes it can be an emotional experience where, I know that for me during this pandemic, and I have eaten more sweets, and I'm just sort of accepting that because it's comforting, and I needed the little extra comfort. And just allowing the food to be and the intake to be really flexible, and that it doesn't reflect value on you, and that radical trust that our bodies are gonna regulate, and our bodies know how to take care of us. And my understanding of intuitive eating is that we generally move to it when, and again, I should always say this, not a dietitian, not a therapist, just speaking from my experience. Also haven't read intuitive eating, but I do practice it. That's sort of, I don't follow a meal plan or anything anymore. I just sort of, do whatever. And I have some structures, the 3 meals a day structure, and but like being on my meal plan for X amount of time, reintroduced hunger sensors to me and reconnected me to cravings and to understanding when I was going to be hungry. So, when I first moved into intuitive eating, I had to be super mindful, and that was super annoying, right? Because I feel you. We've spent so much time thinking about food and bodies and blah, 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 that the idea of practicing mindful intuitive eating seems super exhausting. But I think, and I again haven't read the book, just this is my own experience. I think that the more we practice it, right, the more we become in tune with all of those feelings, and the less we have to actively practice it, and the more it becomes habituated. Because when you think about you being a kid, you didn't follow a meal plan, probably. I know some folks as parents introduced dieting really young, and if that's your experience, my heart goes out to you. That's really, really tough. But like babies, for instance, I hope no baby is on a diet. My God. Babies are doing intuitive eating, right? So we're born with it in us. It's a survival mechanism. And so ideally, we do all of this treatment and all of this relearning and retraining and refeeding and renourishing so that we can live a life where we don't have to think about it so much, where we can just kind of like follow our body's impulses. And the fact that your therapist believes that you might be there, I think is really exciting. So maybe talk to them about finding a way to dip your toe in the water or something like that. Oh, yeah. So Lily asks, when I have a clear head, I identify skills I can use, but once I get in the binge mindset, I ignore all of them because I want to binge. Do you have any tips on how to access your skills in those times? I absolutely relate to that, and remember so viscerally that I'll come back. Kate. I remember so viscerally that experience. For me, and again, everybody is different, but for me, my binging didn't go away until I stopped restricting for Kate, Kate, until I stopped restricting for a significant amount of time. I would do a thing where I would be eating most of my meal, trying to be sneaky, trying to cut corners, trying to like follow my meal plan. And so the binging would still happen because I was restricting, and I was still keeping this idea of scarcity and less and control, keeping certain foods off limits, having trigger foods hold a lot of power. And it took me a long time of following that meal plan consistently, of not restricting, for those binges and that binge urge to subside. So I would suggest having a really honest, brutal conversation with yourself to see, am I trying to cut corners? And it might not even be like restricting food. It could be restricting food groups. It could be like rituals around food. It could be, what you're allowing yourself to eat. But any kind of restriction for me would definitely trigger that binge. And then I think for me, this is just personal experience, like next steps were looking at, I have this I have this impulse to binge. what feelings am I trying to mute? And it's really hard. And you know what? Like, even if you do binge, it doesn't have to be a failure, right? Some of this requires a lot of gray area. So if you're like, okay, what am I feeling? Am I stressed out? For me, it would always be, am I stressed out? Am I overwhelmed? Am I sad? Am I bored? And I still to this day have trouble sitting with boredom, or a lot of trouble doing it. Um, and I was using binging a lot as a way to numb out and to give myself something very clear and very concise to focus on. Because if I was focusing on that and what a failure I was for binging and how it was going to affect my shape and this and that, that I wouldn't have to think about those feelings that were affecting me. So, doing little things to slow down, whether it be taking 3 deep calming breaths and eating one thing, and then trying to take 3 deep calming breaths before eating another thing. So, like, the binge doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? If you start the binge, it doesn't mean you failed. You can start to practice some of these mental gymnastics and these mental exercises even while you're binging, I think. At least I experienced that, and it's really painful. It really hurts emotionally, but there is life without it. It's been years since I've binged. It's been maybe 12 hours since I ate something emotionally, but people eat emotionally sometimes, and that's not the same thing as a binge. Um, yes, sneaky behaviors. Um, so I hope that was helpful. I want to go back real quick to what Kate was saying. Oh, I'm glad you and Sophia are connecting here. Kate, yeah. That does sound like a very complicated added dimension. Um, that sounds really, really complicated. Yes. Um, Julie, throw your scale away. Don't you you can gain 2 pounds from drinking a cup of water. I love you. I say that with love. Um, and I say that as someone who has a hard time letting go of the scale myself. But scales don't tell you anything. They just tell you how much gravity is going on your body or something like that, I think. Scales are stupid. Dumb. They're dum-dums. Yeah, isn't that amazing how you could be feeling well and then you step on a scale? I mean, if you excuse my language here, but if you pooped, that 2 pounds probably go away. Yes, it is terrifying. I get it. I completely get it. But it's a false sense of control. It's a false. You can drink a bunch of water and gain a bunch of weight. You can poop and lose a bunch of, it's all bogus. And especially women, because of our cycles, our weight fluctuates a lot. It just does. That's just how our bodies are. So trying to stay in this range, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. It's just never going to work. And what was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh, yes, smashing that scale. I have always dreamt of doing that. And I was going to say something and I swear it was going to be brilliant. Probably wasn't. Gosh dang it. What was I going to say? It was about scales. Oh, okay. You can't, if you eat a meal and then you get on a scale, that's just what is in your stomach. Like, you don't gain weight like that. Like, weight gain and weight loss, it doesn't happen like that. But I get thinking that, because I've been there, and that's that magical, disgusting power of that eating disorder. But I feel you, and it's so shitty that a number could influence how we are feeling so deeply. Oh, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Okay, everyone here who owns a scale, what if, you don't have to do this, what if though, for 1 week, just 1 week, just until we meet again next week, You put the scale in the back of your closet and you don't stand in it for 1 week. You don't have to get rid of it. Just 1 week. Can we do that challenge? It's okay if not. No harm, no foul. But yeah, give it to a friend. Give it to a friend for a week. Just a week. Just 1 week. Just 1 week. Yeah, yeah. And we'll meet here next week and we'll see how we feel. Maybe we want to do it another week, or maybe we want to get it back out. You know what? I used to do this thing with my therapist when I first got out of treatment because I still didn't trust my body. Yes, and Jessica, you can ask. I still do this sometimes. I'll be like, I would really love to not know my number. So will you not say it? And I'll get on the scale backwards so I don't have to see it. They should be able to honor that for you. Oh, poop. What was I going to say? Oh, gosh. I forgot. Oh, what my therapist would do. So I was really scared. I got out of treatment. I was moving into intuitive eating. I didn't trust my body. I didn't trust that recovery wasn't going to change my body so drastically. I, was clouded with fat phobia and diet culture. So what we did is my therapist weighed me every week. And she promised me, she's like, I will tell you, Angela, if you are gaining weight, I will tell you. And she promised me, and I believed her because she'd never lied to me. She's a very direct, in your face kind of gal. And every week I'd stand on the scale backwards. She'd look at it and she would say, you're good. And for some reason, just having someone see it and tell me I was okay was really helpful. So I don't know, if you have therapists you trust, that could be a fun way to flirt with not weighing. But let's try for a week. Finley, still in the process of finding a therapist. Don't feel like you have much support. God, it's so hard. It's so hard. If you check out, and I'll try and post it here, but if you, any of like the binge episodes in the about section, there are links to virtual support groups that are going on right now. Yay! Not weighing club for a week. There are virtual support groups that you can look at and maybe join. Gila, totally understandable. That might not be the right, that might not be the right choice for you then. Everyone's different, and if that's going to be triggering for you, then yeah, for sure, listen to that inner voice. Oh, that's great, Sophia. So that mirror is being really tricky for you. We'll go back to that 1 second. Yes, so there are some free online support groups. projectheal.org. They do online support groups as well. You do have to fill out a little form, but it's not hard, I don't believe. So seeing if you can find some online group support could be really, 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 oh, Kate, I feel for you. Amanda, I don't think so. I'm not sure. Yes, get in these online support groups. Yeah, eat, but you feel like your body is betraying you. Yes, I know that feeling. It's so, 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 so hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard to trust the process. It's hard to trust that that our bodies will find a way to stabilize. I was talking with a friend of mine who is a therapist, an eating disorder therapist now, but who is in recovery herself. And I never really put my head on this when I first was in treatment and first started intuitively eating. I ate a ton of junk food. Like, I just wanted to eat I wanted to eat the foods I had not allowed myself to eat. And I just ate them a lot. And I wasn't binging, you know. Um, I just wanted to eat all of the foods that were no foods for me. And that lasted a couple of months, and it felt a little scary to be intuitively eating my trigger foods. But it was like I needed to prove to myself, like, no, you can do this now. You can do this now. And I scratched that itch for a while, and then that itch fell away. And I started to eat more boring foods, or some foods that used to be safe and some foods that were triggering. So it's such a long, big process, and our bodies are designed to change throughout our lives. And depending on your age and where you are, in your cycle, and where you are in like your life cycle too, the body wants to change and needs to change, and fat deposits change. And some folks will become mothers, and some won't, and that'll be a change as well. And then there's menopause, for I have to get the terminology down better for this, for folks who have uteri. And there's all life is messy and long, hopefully, and chaotic, and we go through all of these different phases and feelings, and trying to control this vessel who's just trying to get us through the journey safely. Oh, it's such a losing battle. It's such a losing battle, but I understand the impulse for it, and I still sometimes feel the impulse to control it, because the world is hard, and it feels like if we could just control our shapes, we could control everything else. We'd be able to breathe easy, but we know from experience that that's not true. And so I wonder, Kate, if it's possible for you to practice some forgiveness for yourself and some compassion for your body that's trying to recover right now. And maybe trust it a little bit if you can, even 5% more trust that your body isn't done with recovery, and that maybe your shape has changed a little bit right now, but it'll find a set point that's nice and good and where it needs to be. And that set point isn't one number, right? It's a range. It's a set point range. And maybe just having a little bit, see if you can have a little compassion, even if you think of your body as something other than yourself for a moment. Maybe um um Sathir, um your set point, um it might be. And I think, we have a lot of fat phobia in this world, and it becomes internalized, and we put a value on higher set points, and bodies that take up more space, and it's just criminal that we've been trained to think this way. um and yeah, radical acceptance, it's really, really hard. A set point, and again, if someone else can answer this better than I can, I welcome more responses, because again, not a dietitian, not a nutritionist, not a therapist, just a white gal who used to throw up a lot. um yeah, sort of like where your body wants to live. And look, if I'm being totally transparent, I got internalized fat phobia in me, and I sometimes I wish my set point was lower. I'm not immune to the culture. I hate saying that out loud. I know that there is fat phobia in that. I know that there's probably racism in that. I'm going to start reading this book about how diet culture and fat phobia really stems a lot from racism. And I hate that's true, but it's time to look at it. Um, but I think what's really exciting is that we are not our thoughts. Oh, what's the book? You know what? You're gonna see the screen go blank for a second. I want to look it up for you. I'm back. It's called Fearing the Black Body. Um, and my friend Femka, Yuri's wife, told me about it. And I'm going to start listening to it on tape. because I think it is important, an important thing to unpack. Yeah, not sick enough is totally a lie. Yes, yes. So maybe we talk for a second about this idea of not being sick enough. This idea that our pain isn't valid, that our suffering doesn't matter, that we don't deserve help. And it's also this great lie of the eating disorder, because there's no such thing. I mean, who is sick enough? Like what would be sick enough? How much pain do you have to be in to deserve to get support from it? I would say even the littlest amount of pain deserves support, right? Yes, that's a really common thought too, dissociacy. And I think maybe using this tool of divorcing yourself from your thought. I'm having the thought that I'm not sick enough. I'm having the thought that my body doesn't look like how it should look to get help. I'm having the thought that instead of sometimes when we think things, it becomes true to us in our head, but I'm having the thought that I don't like my set point. I'm having the thought that my body is going to change in some sort of really drastic way if I follow intuitive eating. I'm having the thought that I'm not sick enough to deserve help. And then maybe I'm having the thought that I'm not sick enough. I'm having the feeling of pain. So which one do you listen to? And sometimes we got to just fake it till we make it. And by that, I mean, maybe I'm not sick enough, but I'm going to get help anyway. What if I'm not sick enough and I get help? What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen? I get more tools for living in the world. That sounds good. I don't know. I think everyone deserves support. Everyone. And I don't know one person who wouldn't, except for maybe Dewey. This doggy doesn't need a therapist, but maybe he does because he's been really anxious lately. But I don't know one person who doesn't need or deserve support, because being a human is really hard, and fat phobia is really real, and diet culture is really real, and racism is really real, and it all collides in us and can cause a lot of pain. Oh, being turned away from getting help. Okay, Amanda, you raised a great point. You raised a great point that my privilege sort of blinded me to in that moment. Yeah, that's a real thing, because the medical industry is behind, flawed, especially the mental health industry, and there are misconceptions in terms of how eating disordered bodies look. The answer, the truth, is that they don't look any specific way. Shape does not determine health, period. But the medical industry is still catching up on that. So you raise a really great point. Yes. And you know what? Yes. Larger bodied individuals experience more discrimination against getting treatment. I think people in larger bodies experience more. I don't think this is a fact, Angela. This isn't a thought. This is a fact that they experience more discrimination in the world as well. It's a different journey, and I think it's difficult in different ways. And I guess what I hope for those of you who may be afraid of being turned away from treatment because you don't think you fit the mold of an eating disorder is that we've just got to change this industry. We've just got, yeah, you're totally right, Mothix, and we know that that's radically false. We have got to change this lie that shape has anything to do with eating disorders, because it very rarely does. You can be anorexic and not be underweight. And that's just one eating disorder. We've got to change it. We've got to do better. We've got to get our healthcare professionals educated. We've got to get better insurance. We've got to do all of it. But we need you. We need you healthy. We need you well, so that you can help create a better future. Um, that's not meant to. That's not meant to cause guilt. Um, Amanda, you raise a great point, and I'm really sorry that that's a great point. I wish it wasn't. It's wrong. It is wrong that that's a point. It is wrong that people may be turned away from treatment based on the size of their body. It's wrong. It's criminal, in my opinion. And we got to keep fighting and searching for advocates and searching for healthy at any size therapists and dietitians. And because there are good ones out there. There really are. Not everywhere yet, but there are good ones out there who believe this philosophy deeply and who practice. Yeah. Yes, Maria. Yes. Yes. Maria said it better than I did. Yes. Yes, exactly, Sophia. Yeah, yeah. I think it's pretty. Yes, Sophia, you're exactly right. I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty rebellious and pretty punk rock to do that, to educate. And you're also giving them a gift by educating and saying, "Hey, you've got fat phobia covering your eyes. You've got diet culture covering your eyes." And it's not your fault. You're born into diet culture, right? The system is broken. But knowing someone and hearing someone can help you, right? Yeah, it is terrifying. It is terrifying, Leona, because it confirms what our eating disorder tells us, right? Is that we're not sick enough. It confirms that. And yeah, the sooner we can inform the masses that an eating disorder doesn't have a shape, the better. Um, and if you're struggling with that, your pain is valid. It is very, very valid. Yes, yes, Sophia. Yes, thinking of it as a punk rock act of feminism, and of intersectional feminism, right? Feminism doesn't belong to thin, white, straight women, right? Cisgendered straight women. It doesn't belong to just that type of person, of human. And the body acceptance, the anti-diet culture, the anti-fat phobia culture belongs to all of us. And recovery belongs to all of us. Yeah, we gotta be punk rock in advocating for that. And easy for me to say, right? Because I have thin privilege and white privilege and straight privilege and cis privilege, so that's a challenge. Even though I felt it internally, it's a challenge I haven't experienced externally. And I have a lot of compassion, a lot of love for that part of our community. Yeah, Sophia. Yes, yes. It can be really. I find it can be super motivating to try and recover for the future, the children. Recover for the children. Thanks, Rachel. That's really kind. Um, Recover for the children. Love you so much. It's important. We need all of you. We need all of you healthy so we can help help the future. I have to skedaddle a little bit early today. I'm actually in Texas right now with my boyfriend's family for a little bit here, and we're gonna have a little. It's their wedding anniversary tomorrow, so we're gonna have a little lunch. So things we're thinking about this week. If you feel up for it, 1 week no scale challenge. Hide it in your closet. Give it to your roommate. Give it to a friend or parent. Just 1 week. Sending you love, Jessica. And so that's one challenge we can do. And then let's 5% more trust that our bodies have got our backs in the long term. Trust in the process, right? So scales away for a week. 5% more trust in our bodies. And I think that's really, that's great. I love you all. And oh yeah, and those especially us white friends, beautiful white friends, fearing the black body is what I'm going to start listening to this week. So if anyone wants to listen to it along with me, I think it will probably be very challenging and informative for us to understand and unpack some of the other stuff that's clicking around in here. All right. Love you all. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next week. Oh, hooray! We'll read it together. Okay. Love you all. Mwah!